Hello, my name is Ben.
And my name's Josh.
Welcome back to FPL graduates. Welcome back to another video. Game week 1 is done and dusted, but already we've got to look ahead at game week 2. Let's get into Josh's team first and let's see if he's planning on making any transfers.
Okay, so we're just going to stop you right there for this awesome collaboration that me and Ben are really excited to bring to you guys with Sorare. Sorare introducing early access in the 24-25 season. Now let's take a look at why this is so cool. With early access cards, you can compete and win for rewards in the 24-25 season. There are so many rewards on offer, up to $15 million worth of prizes over the entire season. The early access cards are game ready and come with a special pack design ready for the start of the season. These designs will be revealed in September, with 1 in 10 of the cards getting special designs, which I'm all over for a collectible with a special design. Early access allows you to buy, trade and sell your cards as well, so if you're not happy with one of your picks, you can always sell it on. And of course you can play in both the season competitions to earn and play for rewards and obviously cash prizes. What I love as well is that the podiums are bigger than ever, so the best managers around the world will be getting rewarded in the 24-25 season. Why don't you put all that pre-season knowledge to good use and start putting together your lineup like I have. Sign up through our link in the description and earn yourself $50 of in-game credits when you purchase your first 5 early access cards. Okay then, so we're going to get started with a little bit of a dilemma first. So we're going to talk about Valentin Barco. He's currently not in my team as a £4 million defender. I think he's in your team, right, Ben?
No, he's not. He's not either. I bottled it. I was so hot on him for the whole of pre-season, but ended up going Harwood, Bellis. Pretty much a day before the deadline, I got a bit scared of that rotation and the potential of sort of a couple of new signings that Brighton have got in, but it does pose a dilemma for about 20% of FPL managers.
Yeah, it does indeed. Obviously, there was loads of rumours pre-deadline. Well, we got confirmation that Estupiñán was in training. I think it was on the press conference, so maybe Thursday, Friday, from Hertzler. And then also there's obviously been talks about Ferdi Kadioglu of joining Brighton. It seems like they're close to that deal, but not necessarily done just yet. And now, as of literally the past 24 hours, recording this Wednesday evening, Barco has verbally agreed to join Sevilla on a 1-year loan deal. So this is actually quite good news for Barco owners, because he will basically, when he makes that move and is red flagged on FPL, he will not move in price. He'll be price locked. That's what happens to any player that moves out of the Premier League or gets a transfer, and their price becomes locked. So it won't go up, it won't go down, which is great, because at the moment, at the time of recording, Barco is actually quite far away from dropping in price. He's only 12% progress on Fantasy Football Hub's price changes ticker, which is basically nothing. There's like probably hundreds more players that are more likely to move in price before him. What's your advice, Ben, in terms of if you had Barco right now? Obviously they've got 2 tough fixtures anyway in game week 2 and game week 3, so I'd imagine most managers wouldn't be playing them in the next 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's a 4 million defender for a reason, because you probably got the coverage to be able to cover this Barco before, for at least a week or 2 until you have 2 free transfers, double or triple the amount of information that you have right now on good transfers in. So it's worth holding. Like Josh said, as soon as it gets red flagged, should be locked. Historically, that has happened, although you've got to remember Cancelo, when he moved from City to Barcelona on loan, did drop by 0.1, but the rate at which the player could potentially drop is going to significantly slow down. There's going to be a lot more transfers needed for that to happen before FPL put that sort of red flag on him and that lock. So until that update happens, there's a very, very slight chance, but it's worth just monitoring those price change prediction apps to see sort of how quickly it's moving before that move is finalised and sealed and delivered and noted on that FPL website.
Okay then, so after that Barco conundrum, we'll get into my team. I thought we just had to cover that off because we're obviously not doing another YouTube video this week. Next week we'll bring back the usual schedule of YouTube videos. Starting off in goal though, David Raya. Obviously last week he got an 8-pointer, got more bonus than Saliba and Gabriel, which I was very, very fond of. Proper happy with that. Obviously he made some really crucial saves for Arsenal to keep their clean sheet in that 2-0 win over Wolves. He's got Villa away this week. More than happy to play him, obviously, because I've only got him as my goalkeeper. And I feel like it's one of those fixtures where I thought Villa against West Ham, they looked okay. I know there was a lot of shots in that game, but for me, they didn't really create anything crazy good. So I think against this Arsenal side, which defensively have been strong, even in that Wolves game as well, I think that could be a potential for clean sheet, but I'm not expecting it. In the defence itself, Lewis Hall is up first. I watched that game at 3 o'clock and he just didn't look great at all, to be honest. He gave away the ball a lot. He obviously got subbed off relatively early, around the 75th minute. He did get a goal line clearance though, and I would expect him to start due to Cher getting obviously sent off. I'd imagine their back four would look something like Livramento, Kraft, Byrne, Hall. Obviously, there could be some rotation there. Obviously, Lloyd Kelly came on. I'm surprised that he hasn't really gone straight into that Newcastle defence, because I do think he's a solid option. Kieran Trippier also played under 21's minutes this week as well, so there could be maybe a return for him. We're not too sure on that yet. Mazraoui's up next. Obviously, picked him in the end, went to the deadline. He returned the favour with a big 8-pointer. Huge differential. Obviously, the next two fixtures aren't the greatest, but game week 4, they do have Southampton. Against Brighton away this week, obviously Brighton looked fantastic against Everton, but I do think that's more down to the opponent they were playing rather than how great Brighton was. It'll be interesting to see this fixture between United and Brighton. I think it's going to be quite a good one at lunchtime on Saturday. And then finally, Pedro Porro. He's the only player that I would consider moving this week, and that is just due to the injury that he sustained against Leicester. No update at the moment. I think it's probably going to be quite a precautionary injury anyway. He was like stamping on his ankle for like a good 5 minutes after the injury happened. Took him quite a while to get off the pitch in terms of like he was still playing. So I don't think it was too bad. There was no ice or anything like that, which you'd generally suspect if he did sprain it and stuff. So I'm no physio, but I expect that to be, him back fit. And Ange is also really sort of transparent with his press conferences too. So come Friday, I'd expect us to get some good info on him. What's your thoughts on that defence, Ben, for this week? It's obviously Mazraoui's probably got the toughest fixture, right?
Yeah, definitely. I see a couple of clean sheets in there, but I don't see too many more just because of sort of the couple of doubts that we have there with a couple of the teams. I think Hall is still a good pick for this week. Newcastle aren't going to be that defensive every single week when they shouldn't go down to 10 men every single week anyway. And the Bournemouth team, yes, looked still relatively decent in attack, but missing a big player up top for them in Solanke. Mazraoui, sort of really decent option. I think it's going to be a bit more of a test to sort of see what these two and what level these two teams are really at. We'll see what happens there. Anticipate he should start again. And Pedro Porro, to be honest, it looked like a dead leg to me. It didn't look anything too serious. Like you said, Postecoglou is really transparent with everything that he says. I mean, I'd even go as far to say Ange will probably tell us if he is out, the time frame as well. He'll say 1 or 2 weeks. If it's 1 or 2 game weeks that he's out for, I'd almost hold the transfer really, because you could get him back after the international break, sort of all fit and firing and ready to go again. So, yeah, it's one to assess based on the press conference, etc. In terms of like your bench, you'll just have to assess that and see it case by case. And then Reyes, the same as me, I've got him in goal. Not anticipating a return, but every possibility of that given Arsenal's defence.
Yeah, 100%. And if I was to move off Porro, say if that scenario happened with what Ben just said in terms of that 2 weeks off, I'd actually probably move him just because the strategy that I want to get Ollie Watkins in for game week 3. So I'd probably move him down to a 5 or a 4.5 defender, free up some cash, and that'll allow me to get Isak up to Ollie Watkins in game week 3. And obviously the fixtures after Everton for Spurs aren't the best. The thing with Porro is that he could probably return against anyone like we saw against that Leicester game, picking up some great positions. I think he's very underpriced at 5.5 million, so hoping he is in the team for that Everton fixture. Okay then, so moving on to the midfield, we start off with Bukayo Saka. Fantastic performance in game week 1, getting a goal and an assist. It was a 50-50 between him and Son for me, and gladly I picked the right side in terms of picking Bukayo Saka. Admittedly, longer term though, Arsenal's fixtures are probably a little bit harder, and this being one of them with going to Villa Park. In general, I was fairly impressed with Arsenal in their fixture. Obviously, Saka did look good. He's also got a bit of a rest at the end as well, which I do like as well, because we saw last season he was basically getting played full 90 minutes every single week, down to the bone, but seems like Arteta sort of gave him a rest towards the end. Bruno Fernandes, I just don't know how he didn't return in game week 1. Had 2 really good opportunities in the first half. Was one of the, I think, 3 or 4 players who accumulated over 1 XG in game week 1. So yeah, I can't be too disheartened with the pick. I think another day he probably would score a goal. But it's quite promising, I think, for Bruno owners if you do have him. I think the goal threat is going to be more there this season. He seems to be playing much more further forward than he has done in a couple of previous seasons for sure. Diogo Jota as well picked up a goal. Again, played a lot more minutes than I expected him to. Got subbed off around the 80th minute mark, which is great. Darwin Núñez not getting any minutes as well, which is equally as great because it sort of spreads out the long-term fixtures for Jota a little bit. Brentford at home, I'd expect him to start again. He was really good. Probably could have got 2 goals if he converted that Trent Alexander-Arnold cross as well. And then Jacob Murphy, man, the unluckiest guy of the bunch. Obviously, he got subbed off due to the red card that Newcastle got. So didn't really get to see too much of him. But I think this fixture this week, Bournemouth away, he should start. He's had a longer bit of rest and hopefully he can get some returns. What's your thoughts on the midfield, Ben?
Yeah, decent midfield, and like I said, you got a bit unlucky with a couple of the picks there this week. Sort of nothing you can see. Yes, I do agree. Bruno Fernandes playing a much more advanced role. How long that goes on for is yet to be seen, because obviously they've got a couple of strikers in the wings waiting to sort of get up to full match fitness, and I imagine Bruno will play in a sort of a little bit of a deeper role there as a creator rather than a finisher for Manchester United. So just got to bear that in mind over the medium term. But yeah, Jota looks to be a decent pick, a lot more minutes than anyone was expecting really. And yeah, Saka, decent pick as well. Like, you can't complain too much about that. The returns will come very sort of consistently with him this season, and a 12 pointer to kick things off, no complaints at all. The Murphy pick, that's the risk that you have with a player like that for Newcastle. Obviously, he's going to be subbed off early, but we didn't anticipate that early with the red card. So just a little bit unfortunate there that the red card came. Even if he did stay on, I wouldn't have sort of anticipated any returns from him anyway, though.
Okay then, and moving on to the attack, we've got Alexander Isak up first. Bournemouth away this week. I think in Newcastle in general, you can't really take too much away from that performance. It's just one of those situations where they just had to hold on for as long as they can. Obviously, the goal they got was literally just a mistake from Alex McCarthy. It was nothing more. Obviously, Isak got the assist for it, but I think I could have probably made that pass to Joel Linton for the tap in that he got. And yeah, so for me, it'll be interesting to sort of watch Newcastle this week and have a good assessment of where they're going. Obviously, he's still not really made any moves in the transfer market either. That Mark Gahey transfer has sort of gone a bit quiet. Now Anderson's gone to Fulham, and I think they still need a right winger to sort of replace Jacob Murphy, because at the moment he's probably their number one choice at right wing, because Almiron has definitely fallen out of favour. Haaland's up next, captain, not triple captain. I know a lot of people are thinking about it, but I'll be waiting till later in the season to assess the double game weeks that we might have, and I might be able to play it in one of those. If you wanted to use it, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I thought Ipswich actually played quite well against Liverpool, and the goals that Liverpool scored, barring I think the Jota one was well played, but I think the Salah one was a little bit unlucky on Leif Davis's behalf in terms of just not getting enough of a touch on it. But I think, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Again, I think it's going to come down to a lot like game state in that game. If City score early on, then we could see a lot of goals. But if it takes them a while to get out the blocks, I think, we might only see maybe a 1-0, a 2-0 win like we saw with Liverpool. So it'll be interesting to see when that first goal goes in and how it affects the game. Solanke's obviously up next and the last player in the team. I thought he looked really good, to be honest, against Leicester. Had some chances, nothing too clear cut, but got in the right positions, which is what you need. And I think against this Everton defence, which just looks horrible at the minute, they've got no Branthwaite, no Coleman, no Patterson. Ashley Young is obviously suspended as well. It's going to be a real makeshift back line for that Everton defence. So hoping that the Spurs boys can sort of capitalise on that, unlike they did in that first half against Leicester. So yeah, what's your thoughts on the front line, Ben?
Yeah, really like it. Obviously, Alexander Isak is such a sort of highly owned player that it just makes sense to have him and reassess this week. If he doesn't look too great this week, then it might be quite an easy move to make potentially next week. But you just have to wait and see. Like, we've got so little data that we can't make really too many informed decisions. Haaland, really like him as captaincy. same boat as you. I don't think the triple captain's worth it just yet. Let's see where we are in terms of game state come the second half of the season. And then Solanke, I think it's a fantastic pick. I think he's probably up there with Haaland in terms of captaincy, probably the second best captain of any player this game week. Everton conceded all 3 of their goals through the centre of the pitch, so I anticipate a similar showing from them. There's no sort of incoming players that are coming back into that Everton side that are going to change that. So I think a Solanke Hall is definitely on the card, potentially with Maddison as well, because he ran the game at points against Leicester and through the centre created loads of chances. So I anticipate Solanke and Maddison hauling this week.
Nice. Sounds good for me. Moving on to the bench, we've got obviously Morgan Rogers up first. He's playing Arsenal at home this week. Obviously, Rogers himself got 90 minutes against West Ham at the weekend. I do think he will become a bit more of a substitute, like prone to substitution later down the line. Obviously, Watkins had to come off after playing 0 pre-season minutes, and he didn't really look too sharp in that fixture. Wout Faes, Fulham away. I don't even think it's a terrible fixture necessarily. I thought Leicester defended quite well, given the fact they were playing Spurs and they were all over them for that first half. So yeah, it wouldn't be opposed. Say if I gambled on Porro starting and he didn't start, I wouldn't be too sad about Wout Faes coming in for that fixture. And then obviously Leif Davis, it's the last bad fixture for him before I can get him into my team. He had the most touches in the final third for Ipswich out of all Ipswich players against Liverpool, which is really exciting to see in terms of his attacking threat going forward from Game Week 3.
Okay, so moving on into my team, I started off Game Week 1 really well, 80 points to start the season, so very much happy with that. Of course, early stages, so we can't get carried away yet. Right in goal for me, Aston Villa away. I think it's not the best fixture, not the worst, but for me, I've moved away last season rotating keepers. This season, I'm not doing the same thing because I just miss out on the points. So fairly happy to just set and forget him for now. Arsenal, best defence in the league, so we can't complain too much about that. Hull, like we said with Josh, could be prone to potential rotation going forwards, but I think for this week it's fairly safe. Let's see how he gets on against Bournemouth without their main man. We've got Tottenham at home, which I think a few people will bench him for and will be a real indicator of whether he is going to be sort of first choice over the medium to long term. Pedro Porro, I think, like I said, I think he plays this week, but if he is out injured for 1 week, that's not a bad thing for me because it means, as you can see, I've got a back four. It means I can bring it on one of my other attackers that we've got there. Gvardiol in there, we anticipated, and I anticipated to start the season that he wasn't going to be as attacking as he was at the back end of last year, just because of the City players coming back. Gvardiol playing a bit more of a defensive role when Rico Lewis is in the team, which was interesting to see. Rico Lewis inverted and went forward a lot more than Gvardiol did. Gvardiol almost sort of settled into that back three at points. However, there were moments in the game where he did get forward. He's still always going to have that attacking threat, so fairly happy to keep him in there, albeit at 6 million, but Manchester City, again, a decent defence. And the final defender of my team, which I'm really excited to own this week, is Robinson from Fulham. Looks really attacking in pre-season. Got a fantastic game at home to Leicester. Their fixture run from now looks really, really good. So I'm really happy to own him. Let's see if they can keep a clean sheet. They're the fourth most likely team to keep a clean sheet this game week. So, you've got that plus the attacking threat. So I think we could be on for a decent week in terms of the defence and the potential clean sheets. Josh, what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It looks like a solid back line and a solid reason to play a 4-back this week. Anthony Robertson is someone who I'd like to own this game week, but not really wanting to force a free transfer in there. Like you said, really good attacking threat, and before United scored against Fulham on Friday night, he was on for 2 bonus points as well. So that is super promising in regards to that fixture, because I thought Leicester, although they did score against Spurs, didn't look too creative going forward throughout that game. We obviously discussed Porro and Hall already, but Gvardiol, I definitely agree with you in that regard. Obviously, there's no guarantee that Rico Lewis starts. I know a lot of people are bringing him in this week, but for me, there is still rotation with him. There's no reason that Kyle Walker can't come back for this game week. Obviously, he's played a lot of minutes over the Euros, so it's not as if he's going to significantly drop in match fitness, and that would obviously see Gvardiol push a lot further forward to what we'd seen obviously at the back end of last season. So there is definitely potential there, and I think it's just a matter of time before we see that style of Gvardiol, rather than sort of that Gvardiol leaving and us not getting any more attacking returns going forward.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that one there. Moving into midfield, and we have indeed got a double up on Fulham this week. Didn't think I'd be saying that in pre-season. Leicester, when Spurs were on top, they looked really good, and Fulham do have the capability of retaining the ball quite well with the new additions that they got in particular Smith Rowe. I wasn't too concerned about the low levels of XGI involvement against Manchester United because I wasn't expecting that from Fulham in game week 1. I was more impressed by their defensive performance. Smith Rowe, though, got 60 minutes in the bank, which is really good. I anticipate 65 to 70 minutes this week. They're slowly getting him back up to full match fitness, and eventually I do see him becoming a 90-minute man. It's just a case of sort of building him up and making sure that he doesn't pick up any knocks there. One man who I do expect to start this week is Garnacho. Obviously, he didn't start in game week 1, but came on around sort of, was it 60 minutes or so, and looked very dangerous. Looked like the man who's going to create something for Manchester United. Obviously got that assist, had a really high XG chance. It was something like, was it 0.6, 0.7 XG off that one chance. So unfortunate not to come away with a double-digit haul off a 30-minute cameo appearance, which is fantastic. Anthony Gordon, obviously another guy that's at risk a little bit of 60 to 65 minutes just because of the lack of pre-season. Bournemouth away is a decent fixture as well to go to. Anticipate a better showing going forwards from Newcastle just because they've got 11 men. So happy to have him in as well. Mo Salah went and proved sort of everyone wrong in game week 1 by returning. Let's see if he can return in game week 2. He's my vice captain at the moment. Brentford at home. Not a bad fixture. Not the best fixture, in my opinion. I anticipate maybe a 2-0 win for Liverpool and sort of there being limited sort of goal involvement from Salah just because of the way Brentford play against the big teams. It might stifle sort of the impact he has. Therefore, I've vice captained him there. Josh, what's the thoughts there on the midfield? Some slight minutes risks there, right?
Yeah, 100%. There's obviously a couple of guys that you're definitely not going to get 90 minutes out of. I think Smith Rowe being one of them. I agree with your sentiment on him about not really worrying about the expected goal involvement against United. It's a much different fixture compared to Leicester. They were hitting United on the break at all times, using Adama Traore's pace to sort of attack United on the break. I think this game's going to be totally different, as you mentioned. They're going to control it a bit more. We'll see probably more involvement from Andreas and Smith Rowe in those pockets, which I think should be good. And I probably would expect Smith Rowe to return this week. It's obviously probably the best fixture of the bunch in this nice run. Mo Salah as well, obviously, does what he does best in game week 1, gets those double returns. It'll be interesting to see how they do against Brentford, because I thought when Ipswich played against him, I think Leif Davis did a good job on Salah. It was just those sort of 2 moments in the whole game where he just comes alive, and that's what you pay the big money for, to get those returns in those small amount of chances, which he's so good at. I really like Anthony Gordon as a pick. Again, it comes down to that Newcastle factor of just can't judge anything off that game week 1 fixture. It's not going to be like that going forwards. And Garnacho is interesting. I still don't know if he'll start against Brighton this weekend. I think Erik ten Hag does really love Amad Diallo, but I think it's coming down to the fact now Diallo started the Community Shield and game week 1, and now we've seen Garnacho return off the bench in both of those games, so he's putting a lot of pressure on him to sort of change his mind. I wouldn't be shocked if we sort of play those 3 of Rashford, Garnacho and Amad, but he seems to like this sort of false 9 Bruno and Mount sort of pressing. So it'd be interesting to see, but I think Garnacho definitely deserves to start, and even if he doesn't start, we've seen it already that he's really, really explosive off the bench.
Okay, so moving on to my strike force, we have gone as well with Alexander Isak and Erling Haaland for the captaincy. No triple captain either on him, as I'm waiting to see what game state we'll be in come the second half of the season and looking ahead to potential doubles and potential sort of fixtures that we can look to target for that. So yeah, that's the starting lineup. Moving on to the bench quickly as well. Of course, we've got that sort of 4 million fodder keeper in there. João Pedro has been benched for me for this game. Wasn't too impressed with the sort of goal involvement from him. Played a little bit of a deeper role, which was unfortunate. So it's one that I'm potentially sort of looking at making a transfer out. Not this game week, but in the coming game weeks going forwards. We'll just have to see how he plays again, Manchester United and Arsenal, and then make that decision come game week 4, because they got Ipswich at home then. So that's the prime fixture that we were looking to target. Anyway, Harwood Bellis on the bench as well. Like, really nice fixture against Forest at home, but just can't justify sort of dropping anyone in that starting 11 for him. unfortunate, but you know, the 4 million defenders are there to sort of just be used if and when we need them. And then Rodgers third on my bench this week, so really sort of deep bench that we've got in this team, even with Salah and Haaland. So I'm really happy with that. Like I said, I'm fully aware of the minutes risk in the medium term, but you know, we'll run with him whilst we can, because he's getting the most minutes really out of those £5 million mids.
Okay then, so that wraps up our Game Week 2 team reveals. It's come around so fast already. Obviously no transfers really planning to be used from both of us. Our overall advice would be to just sort of save those transfers if you can, unless you have a real big worry. Obviously Jarell Quansah went down in price, so someone like that, you probably are going to have to move on before the price decreases. But in general, our overall advice would be to save those free transfers and bank them up as much as you can to make those more important moves down the line, right Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. We fully recommend that. The sort of waiting and seeing is always more valuable. If you're sort of looking at making a transfer now, I'd wait till the press conferences this week. Let's wait and see what happens with some of these guys. We may even get some early team news as well going into the deadline and going as a result of those press conferences. But yeah, of course, as always, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the FPL Graduates. I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
later. Have a good game week, everyone.
So you may rise, but you'll never make me